Hey everyone, and here's another submission for the Black Border Show competition for blackborder.com. Last time I talked about my black-red Beatdown deck, really just the main deck though, so this time I'm just going to run over the sideboard cards and what roles they serve in different matchups. First of all, we have the fairly standard Infest. Infest is pretty important in the black-white tokens matchup, because it allows you to get around Burnt and Forge Tender, taking out their tokens, and they can't really stop it. Unfortunately, it is a sorcery, and doesn't deal damage to players like Volcanic Fallout, but that is a sacrifice I'm willing to make in order to actually wrath their board. Here we have Chaotic Backlash, another fairly standard choice for black-white tokens. For 4 and a red, it deals damage to target player equal to twice the number of white and blue permanents they control. So against black-white tokens, if they have 2 Cloudgoat Rangers and their tokens out, then this will deal 16 damage for 5 mana, which should probably win you the game. While having 2 Cloudgoat Rangers out could be a little bit of a rare occurrence, especially having all their tokens out as well, they will usually have maybe a Spectral Procession, a Glorious Anthem, a Tide Hollow Sculler, and an Najani Goldmane. That will be around 6 permanents, and you deal 12 to them. That's still very, very good for 5 mana. Here we've got Deathmark, which again is a very good choice for any black-red beatdown sideboard. It allows you to take out Doran in Doran decks, which is usually really hard to deal with since it's a 0/5, so it would take 2 burn spells to deal with, but Deathmark lets you do it with just only 1 card and 1 mana. It's also good against the green-white tokens matchup, because you can take out Wilt Leaf Leashes and other problem cards like that. Here we've got 2 Slave of Bolas, which is actually probably the worst card in the sideboard. It's really in there for Revelark, since you gain control of their Revelark, you swing with it, you deal them damage, and then when it dies at the end of turn, you're going to get to return your cards instead of them returning theirs. However, Revelark is not heavily played. Red-white is going out of favor because black-white and green-white tokens just destroy it, and blue-white Revelark and Esperlark are both a little bit underpowered, so if I had to cut anything from the sideboard, it would probably be the Slave of Bolas. Incinerate is really only in there because I don't have enough death marks, but it's also very good against the Persist version of the black-white tokens. Instead of having lots of creatures to try and push through damage, you can't really do that, since they're playing Kitchen Finks and Murderous Redcaps, getting 2 chump blocks out of them. Instead, you want to try and burn them to the dome, avoiding the combat step. So Incinerate allows me to have access to an extra burn spell in games 1, 2, and 3, which can help me win that game. Puppeteer Clique was featured in the 2nd place main PTQ deck list, which was actually, a report of that PTQ was written at blackborder.com by Hound of Conda. The deck has been featured on the Magic Show with Evan Irwin, on Flat 5 with Flores. It's a pretty good deck, especially because it took 2nd at a PTQ, which is great. Puppeteer Clique is very, very useful. In the mirror match, you can take a Demigod of Revenge if they're playing that kind of card. Against black-white tokens, you can take a Cloudgoat Ranger, which is absolutely insane, because you'll get the tokens off that. Or you could take a Tide Hollow Sculler, although I admit that wouldn't do much, because it'll go away at the end of turn, but you'll be able to look at their hand. And against the green-white tokens, you can take Wilt Leaf Leashes, Kasali Pride Mages. Against 5-color Control, you can take Wall of Reverence. Against Dark Bant, you can take Doran or Rafik. There are so many options for this. It also has Persist, so you can chump block and then do it again. The last card is very, very unconventional, and I just thought of this a couple of days ago. Balefire Liege is a 1-of in my sideboard slot. I would probably be running 2 of them if I could get another one for the deck. I think Balefire Liege is very, very good against black-white tokens. I may be mistaken, but it pumps up your Mog Fanatics, Figure of Destinies. Every single card in your deck is going to get pumped by this, meaning that they will need to use more tokens to trade for it. Also, as I said, against the black-white Persist tokens matchup, and to a lesser degree against the non-Persist tokens, direct damage is very important, since you can't really expect to force through all that much damage with your creatures late game. Balefire Liege turns every single spell in your deck, since all of them are red, except for Infest, Puppeteer Clique, and Deathmark in the sideboard. It turns every single one of those and tacks on an Incinerate. Player Figure of Destiny, Lightning Helix you. play a Chaotic Backlash, take 12, then take another 3 from the Balefire Leash. It is an amazing card for dealing with that. Also, its high toughness means that if you had this against a red deck, it would not be burned out all that easily, only Flame Javelin would take care of it. Unfortunately, I don't have that many red-white hybrid cards, so the life gain aspect will not be turned on all that often, but the burn is very, very good against black-white tokens, and to a lesser extent green-white tokens. Green-white tokens, it's not as great, since green-white tokens will have their Wilt-Leaf Lieges and their Kasali Pride Mages, so if you can't get your way through them, you're probably not going to win through an extra Incinerate anyway. I talked about last time how I was going to a national qualifier on the 10th. I did, and the deck served me very well. I went 3-0 at first, beating a bunch of random decks, Planeswalkers, Grixis Control, and a Naya Mana Route deck. Then I lost to a Jund aggro deck, which is a pretty bad matchup for me, since it can get out large creatures that I can't deal with, like Lord of Extinction and Broodmate Dragon. Then I lost again in the 5th round, 3-2 now, against Nycteropolis, who actually qualified for Nationals with his black-white tokens build. You can also see that on the main page at blackborder.com. And then I won the last round against a 100% creature deck running Glenelender Archmage, Noble Hierarch, Kasali Pride Mage, Burnt and Forge Tender, lots of weird stuff, a rogue deck list. I ended up going 4-2, as you can see from that very, very limited report. And that was good enough for 8th place, where the top 6 qualified. So, I was very, very close. If a person on 10 points with 3 wins and a draw had lost, and a person on 12 points, 4 wins and 1 loss, had not ID'd and instead played out and lost, then I would have qualified. But you can't have everything. 8th got me 3 packs, which was not all that great, but it was very close. I picked up a lot of good rating points off that, and I will be taking this deck to another national qualifier tomorrow, the 17th, and I think it'll be a small one, so I hope to come back and say that I am now qualified for British Nationals. I don't know if I will be able to do that, so don't get your hopes up. On my next video, I'm going to go a little bit more on the casual side, and I'll just be reviewing my Elder Dragon Highlander deck list, which is a Grixis EDH deck featuring Nicole Bolas as the general. Thank you very much for viewing, listening, watching, and hopefully I will speak to you again from this medium next week.